Hey guys, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And I hope you enjoyed this interview. Good morning, Your Excellency, and welcome to the program.
Nancy, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, Your Excellency. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
You really went ahead of the federal government precisely on Monday to announce a wage increase of 70,000 naira. My question to you is, what exactly is that 70,000 naira? Is it a minimum wage or is it a wage award? I also know that your state, you were paying earlier 40,000 naira. And why I'm asking that question is, I know that minimum wage thrives on a law. There's a tripartite committee existing now, the federal government, state governors, stakeholders, NLC, labor unions, and private sector players are supposed to be there, and that meeting has not come out with a conclusion. So what exactly is this 70,000 naira minimum wage, and what inspired this move?
Thank you very much, Nancy. I think your question can be answered from three perspectives. First, that is, what is the situation in the country today? Almost a year ago, the federal government had to take some important policy measures to stabilize the economy. One of them included removing subsidy, another was liberalizing exchange rates. And these two policy measures, as we have all come to see, have been inflationary. So the reality today is that the amount of money we pay our workers in Edo, particularly youth government workers, who we've given so much responsibility to in the last few years, has depreciated significantly. So if you look at when we were paying 25,000 naira minimum wage, as against the federal government 18,000, the value of that money to the worker then was about $120 a month. When we increased minimum wage to 40,000 naira, the exchange rate at that time was 414 naira to the dollar. So the effective value was about $90. Even as at the increase of 70,000 naira, the effective value to the people were paid is about $55. So you can see how our people have gotten poorer over the years. So what is the point? Saying you are paying someone an income, a wage, that the person cannot live on. Decisions were made almost a year ago. It's taken almost a year to adjust to the reality of on ground. And we're facing another May Day where we have to go back to the workers. And, don't forget that these are people who have been there for us, who have worked with us in the various reforms we've undertaken in the state. So it's coming to another year, another anniversary where we need to celebrate them. What do we tell them? That we're still negotiating? So for us in Edo, in the public service, we said, no, we understand your plight, we live with you, and yes, we've had some increased revenues in terms of the amount of allocation that now comes to the states, and let us reciprocate by giving you more than you currently are earning. And wait for the federal government. Whenever the federal government agrees or decides on a minimum wage, and don't forget that's a federal responsibility to create a minimum wage for the country. But we are not bound as a state to pay that minimum wage. We could pay above the minimum wage, and we have also always done so in Edo State. So to answer your question very straight to the point, first, the reality today is that we need to adjust salaries for our workers. The second is that whatever government and federal government agrees is minimum wage, we can pay more than that.
Okay. Do you have any inkling when that would happen? Because there seems to be a deadlock. There's a tripartite committee which federal state governments are part of. Do you have any inkling as to when this will happen? Because Labour has actually threatened that it would have industrial action by the end of this month if nothing comes out from that committee. I don't know what you and your colleagues, governors, are saying about it, and perhaps the presidency.
We met last night, and we have decided to accelerate the conversation, and I'm sure that the conversations will be speeded up, and should come to a resolution soon.
Okay. How will this increased wage bill be accommodated in your budget? Because I know that you signed the 342 billion naira budget for 2024. Was this initially factored into it? If it wasn't, how are you going to augment for the increase?
We have a draft revised budget, which we will send into the House of Assembly in the next few days. But we had anticipated that this would happen. Don't forget, we've been watching the economy very closely and I have made comments about the economy in the past. So once these measures were undertaken last year, we knew and anticipated that we'll come to this. And we started making plans as a state. So what we have done is to say, fine, we have a budget of about 350 billion, about 40% or 45% of that is recurrent, and the other is capital. And in terms of the recurrent, you have personnel costs and overhead costs. So what we're striving to do is reduce the overhead costs, the cost of running government, and moving some of that savings into the cost of paying better salaries to our workers.
How many public sector workers will benefit from this? Because from my last count, I know that Edo State has like 70,000 public sector workers.
We have about 61,000 if you include local government employees.
Okay, so about 70,000 public sector workers. Now, how would you factor the political angle? Because your tenure comes to an end in the next few months. There will be a new administration. A lot of your critics have also said that this is just a political move, and will the new administration be able to sustain this? I know that your predecessor, Governor Oshomole, I think he came in when it was 18,000 naira. He raised it to, I think, 25,000, if I'm not mistaken, the minimum wage.
Yes.
You raised it to 40,000 naira. So tell me if there was a political angle to this. You are just being politically smart so that you will make your party, attractive for people to vote.
Well, the problem is most of my opponents are financial illiterate. So they will have challenge understanding what we're doing. The money is there. We are meeting our budgets, and all we're doing is reallocating, moving monies from operating expenses to salaries, because that's where the need is most today. But I tell you what we have done. Because we knew today will come, we said, how do we reduce the cost of governance? How do we reduce the cost of running the civil service? So we've made certain strategic investments. For instance, Edo is paperless. That means, we're running a very digital economy that's very efficient. So we're not spending money on stationery. We're, curtailing travels. Another thing we've done is to invest in a lot more efficient infrastructure to run government. So most of our workers now work out of 6 hubs. The Secretariat Hub, the Agric Hub, the Hub for Health, the Hub for Education. So we're able to contain and manage, our costs. So we do not buy diesel because we have Osyomo power. So most of our government offices are powered from an IPP. We have our own internal transport system, our own hailing service like an Uber, where if a civil servant wants transport to go and do any work, all they need to do is go to an app and apply, and a driver and a car will be there to take it to work. So we've redesigned government and made it a lot more efficient and cheaper to run. So we're able to make some savings as a result of all of this, and those savings we're now moving to paying better salaries for our workers.
How will this impact the state's pension system and retirement benefit? Because this will also jack up retirement benefits as well as pensions.
It was all part of the calculation. And, before we came to this decision, as we always do, we sit down and we create various financial scenarios and financial models. And we're able to do that a lot more efficiently today because we have gone digital, we are computerized. So we can see what the effect of increasing an allowance by this percentage, what it will be on certain categories of workers and pensioners. And we've done all of that and done our numbers, and we know we can sustain what we've started. We've never defaulted in salaries at any point, in the last 8 years.
Governor, if you take a look at 70,000, however, however that you want to look at it for people to praise you, don't you think that is also small? Coming from, of course, inflation in your states, food inflation is 43%, headline inflation 31%. You're an investment banker. I've known you all these years as an investment banker. And I know that perhaps after your tenure, you're going back to your investment banking career. You know what inflation is saying in this country. So is 70,000 naira really enough for workers, since you have close to 70,000 public sector workers? That's one question. The other question is, how will it now impact inflation? Because there's something in this country about when there's a salary increase, inflation rises. How do you intend to contain inflation in your state, especially from the food side? I'm not talking of even headline inflation. Food side, you have control. You can have control because it's structural. You know what I'm talking about, that inflation in the country has been triggered mostly by food inflation, and that you and your colleagues can also have control in terms of boosting food production. So how do you expect to contain all of that?
Thank you, Nancy. If you look at the data you're referring to, in terms of food inflation, I think Edo is right there at the bottom. I mean, by that I mean that food prices, when you compute the basket of food prices, we're like number 4 or number 5 on that.
Governor, you're higher than the average because the food inflation is 40% nationally. Yours is 43%, yes.
Precisely. So that doesn't really affect us as badly as it does some other states. And so what I mean is that our citizens are slightly better off because there's massive investments in agriculture in the state. We're supporting farmers, preparing land, opening up access, and because of our location, there's market for whatever they produce. So, but that notwithstanding, there's general inflation across the country. And this is in the 30s, in the 30% range. For us as a government, we believe that we cannot sit and say because other people are not responding, we have to wait before they respond. Perhaps, by just responding, it will trigger the need for others to understand that, look, this challenge is present and urgent. When I hear comments like, I'm hearing from you, it's like we do not seem to put enough premium on the pain and the sufferings people are going through today. You're talking about inflation, you're talking about numbers, but there are families who cannot feed. One of my commissioners came to me last week, in a panic. So look, we had finished an event, we had excess food packs, and they then decided to go out to give these food packs, to people in town. And she came back and said, people were stopping, well-dressed, responsible-looking people were stopping to come and beg for food. That tells you how bad the situation currently is. So as government, I believe that our priority should be just to address what the pain and the suffering our people are going through, whatever means, and not begin to read political meanings, to measures to ameliorate pain and suffering. So I think I will look at it from that perspective and say it's not right. It's almost wicked for people to look at a gesture to ease the suffering of people from a political lens. And what is also interesting, Nancy, is that, like today, in Edo, a daily paid worker, someone who goes to a casual laborer who goes to look for a job every day, gets paid almost 5,000 naira a day now. That's what the market, is saying, and that's what the market is paying. If that worker works for only 10 days a month, he'll make 50,000 naira. And this person has no skill, and has no skill. And then you are saying that a civil servant, somebody who is on level 7, should not earn 70,000 to 100,000 naira a month, and you expect that these public servants will provide the goods and services to stabilize the society, to train our children, to provide health care. We should stop deceiving ourselves.
Will this wage increase lead to a corresponding rise in taxes too?
No, because the way we structured, we've looked at the increases are really in the non-taxable allowances that we pay. So if someone was earning 40,000, 40% allowance, transport allowance, for instance, we'll increase that by a certain factor, to make sure that the person gets a bit more money.
Are there plans to encourage private sector in your state to be able to adopt similar pattern? Because yes, go ahead.
I tell you that most private sector has already started adopting. The person who goes to look for work every day, what is he? Is it a private sector? The daily paid worker, is it a private sector? He's already adjusted.
So are you saying that private sector stakeholders in your state are already paying 70,000, or will they queue in and pay 70,000 as their minimum wage?
This is more like an indicative wage rate. If you understand, people will eventually pay what they can afford, but they also have to relate what they are paying to the markets. So if you have a nanny that comes to your house every day, and you used to pay 30,000 to, that nanny may not be able to come and work for you anymore if you don't increase the salary, because our cost of transportation has increased, our cost of just even able to serve you has increased, and that is the reality. So to pretend that reality does not exist, I think it's not good. I don't think leaders should look at life and their people from those lenses.
How do you now expect that? Do you think that this would attract top talent into public sector and retain them, since you've moved your wage to 70,000 naira a month?
Yes, Nancy, okay, that is not the main reason why we increased, but in the last few years in Edo State, we have made a lot of investments in using technology to run government. And we've been attracting, more younger and very smart people. Don't also forget that in Edo State, we have a standing policy that any Edo citizen who makes a first class from any recognized university, automatically gets a job in the civil service or public service of the state. And we have almost 200 of such type people. So you're right, we're attracting, as a policy, we attract top talent, quality talent into the state and into our service. And one way to retain them is to make the remuneration and the rewards very competitive. Otherwise, if you don't, they'll be poached from you. So we also believe that one of the positive effects of what we have done will be that our young people, particularly young people who are working with us today, will not have the need to begin to look outside, because we'll be competitive with what they will get outside.
What will be the impact on the state's ability to invest in infrastructure and other development projects, as well as even foreign direct investment? I'd like you to speak on that. That's one. Then number two, I'd like you to give me an average amount that your state gets from FAC every month now, because I know that states in the country have been getting more money as a result of subsidy removal from petrol. But that's even another discussion, because one way or the other, there's still subsidy one way or the other. But I know that states, governments now have additional revenue. So can you give me an idea of how much Edo State gets from FAC? Now, perhaps if that was also giving you confidence to go ahead with the 70,000 naira wage increase? And are you going to augment it from your IGR? So, Governor, I've asked you like 3 questions as we conclude.
Okay, thank you. Let me answer as I remember.
I'll remind you.
First, the way we've designed our finance in the state is such that we try and spend all our IGR on capital investments.
Okay.
We don't spend IGR on running the state or paying salaries. We use what we get from Abuja as SPAC to pay salaries, pensions, and all the other expenses related to running the state. And whatever is left, we also use to pay contractors and invest in our infrastructure. That's how we've run Edo since I became governor.
Okay.
And so you're right, now that there's more coming in from Abuja. In the past, we used to, if you just break down our budget, we expect that about almost 200 or so million out of that will be FAC, which means, about 150 will be FAC. So whereas we used to get in the range of 5 to 7 as FAC, that's moved up to between 7 and 10 now, depending on the situation in whatever they decide in FAC. So there's been easily a 30% increase from what we get from the federal allocation. So that means that there's room to pay higher to people working for you in government. And so, yes, you're right. So that's part of the justification. But it's also possible that if you don't manage what you get properly, there are other expenses to creep up. For instance, and that's what we have done in Edo, which makes us different and unique. The other expenses like buying diesel, having a lot of government vehicles, of buying stationery, of traveling, all of those, we've tended to curtail those or manage them better so that whatever you're getting from Abuja is not frittered away into these expenses. That saving is now available. That's why we can increase what we're paying to our workers. It's about prudent management. And that's been part of our political challenge in Edo, because in the past, the expectation is that more money has come in, so there's more money to be shared. But for us, we said, no, because more money has come in, we must invest more, particularly for the future of our state and the future of our children.
Okay. Finally, you talked about IGR. I want to have an idea of how much IGR you make monthly, which you said you focus on
it depends.
infrastructure.
I mean, when you do an average, because this year we're expecting to hit 75 billion IGR. So if you divide that by 12, that will give you an average of what we're making monthly.
That's still little, Governor. I wonder what it was. Before you came in, what was it? And
it was in the range of 40. We've almost doubled, a range of, slightly under 40. So we've almost doubled IGR since I came in. Much more than doubled. It was about 2 billion when I came in, which used to give us about 30 billion. So more than doubled IGR.
Okay. All right, I think we'll leave it at that now. Thank you very much, Governor, for speaking with me this morning. I wish you a lovely day, and I hope that we'll speak before your tenure ends so that we critically look at Edo State and what you've done in the last 8 years.
Thank you very much, Stancy. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor. Thank you for watching. In case this is your first time watching us, thank you. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, drop your comments as well as like, and most of all, share our content.